Okay, so I wanted to just go over how I cut vinyl on my Silhouette Cameo Pro. So first thing is that I am using a strong tack mat. I'm using a thicker vinyl because that's a little bit harder to cut, so I just wanted to make sure to kind of give that option for thicker vinyls. Oftentimes what I use more than anything is marine from marinevinyl.com. That's normally, my main vinyl. So what I did is I put the vinyl upside or design side down, right? The fabric on the back, because that keeps it in place the most. And if you do have residue afterwards, I just use some alcohol to wipe it down. So when you're looking at your machine, you have two lines on the left side. Something they don't tell you, I think, anywhere, is that when you're using a 15-inch mat or a 24-inch mat, you need to align your mat on the far left side, right? So you have one line, two arrows, and then one line. The inside line is when you're using a 12-inch mat or when you're using a roll of vinyl or heat transfer vinyl. When you're using a 15-inch mat or a 24 mat, you need to use the outside line. So you would line it up. Turn this on. And I'll do a close-up too. So you would line it up to the outside line and feed it through. Now for the 15-inch mat, I don't use any supports. These are kind of in place, but I just leave them there. But if I'm using a 24-inch mat, what I do is that I take one of my large rulers and I just slip it under, and that gives my 24-inch mat support. So I use that if I'm using, if I'm cutting out a bunch of circles, or if I'm cutting out, a bunch of purse pal patterns, whatever it is that I'm doing a lot of, and I want to use the big mat. Okay, so I wanted to give a quick overview. In my housing right now, I have the regular blade, and then I have, I don't know what this is actually. I think this might be the craft blade. No, it's the rotary cutter. It's a rotary cutter. I used it for fabric the other day. But anyway, so the number one, which is the auto blade, that's what I'm going to be using to cut my vinyl. And so these are the lines I was talking about earlier. When you are using a 12-inch mat, you line up your mat here on this inside piece. When you are using a 15-inch or 24-inch mat, you need to line it on the outside line. I really don't know where I learned that, but because I know it wasn't with any of the manuals or anything like that. I don't know why they don't tell you, but they do not. And so when I'm putting it in, I make sure, because this is a 15-inch mat, I don't line it in on the inside. I line it in on the outside, right? And then I just make sure that's all lined up. And then I feed it, and I press my, it's hard to do with my phone in my hand, and then I feed it, and I press my arrow, and it feeds in, and you see it was crooked because I wasn't holding it right, but you got to make sure that it feeds in evenly. Otherwise, it'll throw off your cut. All right. So that's the size of my vinyl that I'm using. I'm just going to cut out a square to test it out. Like I said, I picked a thicker vinyl this time, and so what that really means is just that my settings have to be higher. So when I go to send and use my settings, okay, then under carriage 1, which is the auto blade, for material I'm going to pick faux leather paper, and it automatically gives you some settings there. There it goes. So it gives you a 5 for the blade depth. The passes is 2, and the force is 33 in speed. I normally don't mess with the force, I do change the speed, especially if I have very intricate design. I prefer for it to go slower. Like if I was cutting out a purse pal or a pocket pal, then I would have it go a little bit slower, but it's just a circle, so I'll go with the 2. So here is the main thing, the blade depth and the passes. So with the blade depth, I because this is a thicker vinyl, I go with a 10. Just be weary. What I tend to do is that I forget when I switch between vinyls, and then if it's a thinner vinyl, I end up cutting up my mat, which is just annoying. But a 10 blade depth with 2 passes, a 33 force and speed is what I'm going to send to the machine to see if that cuts my vinyl. All right, so it's cut out, and we're gonna see. So as you can see, it's cut my vinyl. I normally just test it out like this because if you don't eject it, you can send it back and it'll match the same pattern. But once you release it, you know, there'll be a slight difference. So if that did not cut, then I would send it back through, but that did. And so like I said, that cut through my vinyl, and this is some pretty thick vinyl that I have here. Again, I don't normally set it on the 10. I normally have it as a little less, but that actually worked out. Okay. But yeah, so that is how I cut vinyl on my machine. My little square.